Good morning, and good morning again. Happy Saturday to you. What an awesome privilege it is for us to come on another broadcast on a Saturday morning, bringing you some of the most authentic conversation that we can have, trying to provide some coaching for you in this area. If you're joining by Facebook, let me say welcome to you this morning. If you're joining by way of YouTube, we certainly want to say welcome to you as well. We're just delighted to be able to be here. And listen, if you can hear me, what it means is that you are a survivor, that despite whatever 2022 thrown at you, you are a overcomer. Matter of fact, the good book says that you're actually more than an overcomer. And so I wanted to welcome you today. Listen, we're going to get started. Want to thank you for tuning in. Want to be a good steward of your time. 60 straight minutes. We're coming at you straight. Want to tell you how you can join us today. Maybe you got a friend that you want to be a part of this conversation on today. If you have Facebook, you can go to Dr. K.L. Williams Ministry. That's Dr. K.L. Williams Space and Ministry on Facebook Live. That's the handle. And you can also go to YouTube, Dr. K.L. Williams Space Ministry, and you can find us there as well. Keep in mind, if you have missed any broadcast or you want to be able to catch up on a previous broadcast, or you want to hear it again, you can go to our YouTube channel, Dr. K.L. Williams Ministry, and you can search through all of the broadcasts that we have. Then at the bottom, your voice. I want to tell you that you can go to bit.ly/RealTalk Your Voice and put that into your browser. It'll take you straight to us, and it'll allow you to be able to talk directly to us. If there's another coaching series that you would like, topic, conversation, you want some coaching around, we'll get at it. If you'll just holler at us and let us know what you're interested in. Listen, 60 minutes every Saturday. It's addressing life's issues. Straight, honest, transparent conversation. But we always try to give you some practical tools to put in your toolbox to handle this thing called the work of life. Anyone can join. So I want to just tell you, let's get started on today. Welcome again to our 2022 Real Talk Life Issues Coaching Series. We've been at this ever since this time last year. We're just thankful that you've been able to hang out with us. Listen, we've made some amazing progress together, had some amazing straight conversations. Now, I want to tell you that you're in for a wonderful ride with us over these next couple of weeks. I want to invite you to do a little housekeeping with me, if you will. If you're listening today, I want you to think about somebody that might be able to be blessed. And I'm going to invite you to give them an opportunity. You can go right down to the bottom of your screen. There's a little button that says share. You'll click that button. Your friends will be able to hear and participate as well. And then we're going to ask you this morning, if you're hanging out with us, say amen or hello, happy new year, whatever you like. We'd love to know that you're hanging out with us today. I want you to put your seatbelt on, because our first topic on the top of 2023, we've talked about some of the other topics. We did a good review for you on last week. And I'm just going to invite you, because we have so much to cover today, that you would just go back and engage one of those sessions, particularly last week, because it gives you a way to reach us, as well as some of the topics that we've covered. And so on the top of 2023, we're going to start out talking about a topic that needs a lot of attention. I'm going to ask you to help me get the word out. We're going to be talking about the state of Black men in America. And when you realize it, what you're going to find is It goes all the way down the state of black men in your home, on your job, in your church, and in your community. What affects one affects us all. It was Martin Luther King Jr., that the late Martin Luther King Jr., that said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I want to tell you, we're going to get down and dirty, and I'm going to ask you to get your pad and pencils out. But more importantly, I'm going to ask you to consider trying to contact a black brother and asking them to come and have a conversation around the state of black men in America. I'm going to give you some staggering facts. Many scholars have already done the work. They've done the research, and I just want to bring it to you so that you can benefit from it. Let me tell you, we're going to be bringing in scholars, people qualified in their own right, to talk about various aspects around the state of black men in America. And you may say, well, why is that important? Because there may be a black male that's connected to you. We're going to talk about some of the ways that we can monitor and assess just the value of knowing what it means to have a black man in the conversation. And so let's get started tonight. Today, rather, I'm just going to have a brief conversation. I've got some of my colleagues who will be coming up on next week. So be sure to tune in on next week. We're going to start right out the gate with some of our scholars to help you to understand some basic things around black men and the state. I want to tell you that there's actually a crisis around black men in our country and in our nation. I've traveled the world abroad, and I find this scenario the same in America, in these other third world countries as well. And so what we know is that there is a crisis in our world around the state of black men. Now, I've chosen to just have a basic conversation with you today, and to let you know that when you talk about to be a black male, you can say to be poor or either African American is to confront a daily bias and a deep held racism that exists in every social institution. This is from a quote from our booking college colleague, Camille Bussett. She says to be a male, poor and African American or Native American is to confront on a daily basis a deep held racism that exists in every social institution. Listen, I was talking to a gentleman just recently. He has a doctorate degree and six-figure job. And the sad thing was, he said he worked in this building that had all these different types of floors, 24 floors. And he happened to need to go up to another floor. And when he gets on the elevator, there's a lady, a white lady, might I add. He says, and he watched her subtly grab her purse. And he says to himself, here I am, Lord have mercy, on a Saturday morning. This brother says, here I am, accomplished brother with an accomplished career. And the very fact that his color of his skin created a tense moment in the elevator. It is to suggest, again, to be black. I want to just drill down. No other demographic group, Ms. Bussett contends, has fared as badly, so persistently, and for so long. I'm telling you right now, this is not an overnight problem. To meet this appalling crisis, she she, along with myself, I want to lift up a thought for today, and that is this. I stand in agreement with Miss Bussett in a new deal for Black men. There it is right there. We're going to be diving deep on what that thing looks like. A new deal for Black men. It is to suggest that the time has come and the hour is now for the culture and the climate to change for Black men. Well, when you look at this new deal, there are a couple of core priorities that have to take place. But I want to also suggest the elements of this new deal will likely consist of intentional policy making in the fields of education and training, the labor market, family policy, especially for fathers, criminal justice reform, and tackling concentrated poverty. Listen, my friend, when you talk about a new deal for Black men, we lag in all the wrong categories when you consider policies that were made against Black men. We're going to get into that. There's a book called The New Jim Crow. Oh, yes, I'm telling you, we're going to give you some facts that you cannot deny. The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. She lifts up the burden that's placed on Black men through policy making. We're going to talk about that, but just know that these are some of the areas that we're going to dive deep in. I invite you to the discussion. I invite your comments and your ideologies as well. But policy making is big. And what we're finding out is march in the street, all you get ready. But somebody needs to go down to that ballot box and put people in place that will make equitable and fair policies for all people. Listen, when you talk about education, when you talk about training for jobs, the labor market, everywhere you look, everybody's now is reinventing new type jobs, new type skill sets. But you got to train people to come along to benefit those skill sets. And let's not talk about family, the state of the Black man in the family. Listen, when you look at the criminal justice reform, we are in need of criminal justice reform. I'm going to bring some expert criminal justice majors onto our broadcast. I've got some judges lined up as well, some lawyers. Listen, my friend, I got one judge who says, Dr. Williams, in your network, tell these Black men to quit taking these plea deals. This is a judge who says once you take the deal, Lord have mercy, it ties the hands of those who can help you. But again, it's a vicious cycle to get the caseload down. And then when the Black man takes the deal, there's really not much left that can be said. And then let's not forget poverty. That it is now a predictor. I'm going to give you a website. There's an index that you can put in your zip code. Listen to me. And they can already tell by your zip code what kind of outcome you're going to have. My friends, we need a new deal for Black men. I'm unapologetic in saying that. And what I want to invite you to do is to help join the call to action to start bringing light to some of these crises around our Black men. Well, I want to tell you, as we look at some of these areas, let's dive into them just a little bit. Number one, education. Yeah, let's talk about it. I can provide you some key facts on Black men's outcomes in some areas compared to Black women, and white men. Let's get at it today. Education. There was a study done by Pew Research that said in 2019, 28% of Black men ages 25 to 29 had a bachelor's degree or higher, compared to 30% of Black women, and watch this, and 40% of white men, and nearly half of white women, according to the National Center for Education Statistics. The gap is greater still at a higher education level. Only half as many Black men have a master's degree. The research showed that it was only 4%, as Black women had 9% and white men had 8%. As you can see, and white women, by the way, if you're wondering, had 13%. So you can see the Black male is at the bottom of education. And when you look at this education, you also have to look at the types of schools. I'm a 9-year educator, and I can tell you I've taught in a Title I school, and I've taught in a priority school, which is a school that is performing so low that the federal government has to come in and intervene. It's called a priority school. And so when you factor in those, what we call social determinants, my friend, we need a new deal. And what I can tell you is when you have young Black males that come to school day in and day out, and all they see is poverty, it has a staggering effect on their outcome. Oh, yes, there's one or two that may escape the reality, but the reality is when you subject a child to nothing but poverty, it takes a God above to miraculously raise their awareness. I can tell you that mentoring in those schools, I saw had an astounding effect on those young Black boys in those poverty-stricken schools. And so what are we saying? That I can tell you that the research says that if you don't get a Black kid reading by the age of the 3rd grade, are you ready for this? That they can already predict a jail cell for them by the time they get to high school. It's just a perpetual cycle. Oh, yes, I'm talking. We need a new deal for our Black men. And then we're going to bring some educators in, and I'm going to let you hear straight from them what they're experiencing in an education system that was literally designed to keep the Black male down. Oh, yes, I'm giving you some facts and some research for you to go and look after. We're going to also be talking about upward mobility. That is simply to say that Black women and white women they raised by low-income parents. Black women and white women raised by low-income parents have similar rates of upward intergenerational mobility, measured in terms of their individual income as adults. Listen to this. Black men, by contrast, are much less likely than white men to rise to the income ladder. We know this is nothing new. This is according to Rhea Chetty and his team of Opportunity Insights, who have crunched the numbers on 20 million Americans from 1978 to 1983 birth cohorts. Listen, a third of white men raised by low-income parents end up in the top 40% of income distribution as adults compared, you ready, to only 19% of Black boys. When a Black male is brought up in low income, I'm telling you, it is the deprivation index. We're going to give you some links to go to that you can put in a zip code in a particular town anywhere. And the deprivation index can tell you by zip code the probability rate of upward mobility for that child. Now, I can also tell you that when moving up this income ladder for children raised by low-income parents by race, the data shows that Black men raised by low-income parents face twice the risk of remaining stuck in intergenerational poverty. That's 38%, as Black women only face 20% in terms of individual income. Why is this important? My friends, we want a new deal. The past is not good enough. And I'm asking you to join me as we raise awareness. It starts with awareness that you need to know that when you're born Black, male, and in low income, that there are, oh my goodness, the deck is against you. It's not saying that you cannot overcome it. I watched the Hakeem today on the inauguration, if you will, of the Speaker of the House, and Congressman Hakeem says, of all the people raised in subpar conditions, financially, educationally, he says, for him to be standing as the highest position in Congress is nothing short of a miracle. But be clear about one thing. There's not a whole lot of Hakeems out there. And when you're born into these staggering barriers, you have to figure out what kind of resources. And that's what we want to start bringing to this broadcast. Over the next several weeks, I'm asking you to bring your Black males to this conversation so we can, number one, arm them with education, that there's a reason why you're struggling. And then you can't make bad decisions on top of being born in a disadvantage. So there you have it. When we talk about earnings, Black workers, regardless of gender, this is no secret, earn less than white workers, and white men have substantially out-earned white women and Blacks since the 1980s. This is according to a current population service data. Listen, I want you to understand that it takes resources to exist in this world. That is simply to say, you need money. In this report, I found it staggering that the results says that Black men, listen to this, earn $378 less per week than white men and $125 less than white women. Overall, white women have seen the biggest increase in earnings, overtaking Black men in the 1990s. Why is this important? Because the truth of the matter is, when you know better, you can do better. I want to also talk about unemployment rate, right? Because if you're going to talk about upward mobility, you have to also talk about unemployment. And what many people, I'm just only going to remind you because most of us have heard it all over the news and everywhere else. And that was the staggering effects of COVID on income. which basically generated a conversation around unemployment. Who am I talking to? Listen, the report says that Black men have the highest unemployment rate of civilian, non-institutional Black and white men and women over age 20, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You can find that stat right there, that there was a large race gap in unemployment. This is even before COVID swept the U.S. However, prior to March 2020, Black men consistently had among the highest unemployment rates of Blacks and white workers. Did you hear that? Black men, even before the pandemic, had the lowest employment rates and the highest unemployment rates. Unemployment shot up for everyone, we will agree, in April of 2020. As unemployment began to fall for most in June, Black men's unemployment rose and remained high through September. In September, 12.6% of Black men were unemployed, compared, you ready for this, to only 6.5 white men. They were doubling the unemployment rate. I want to tell you that the report says that Black men are twice as likely to be unemployed as white men. The last fact I want to just draw your attention to as we make the case for a new deal for Black men. I don't know if you know it or not, but they've done the research on the life expectancy of a Black man. Did you know, according to the CDC National Center for Health Statistics, that women live longer than men on average? But there are big race gaps also. For example, the life expectancy is lowest for Black men among Black and white people. Let that sit in for a moment. That Blacks have a higher death rate, but Black men, be clear, are the least likely to live. Now, we know there are a whole lot of reasons that go along with that. Listen to this. For white men, life expectancy at birth is about 6 years lower than at the age of 65. I want to say that again. For white men, life expectancy at birth is about 6 years lower than at the age of 65. But for Black men, that gap is over 9 years, showing that Black men are more likely to die prematurely. There are so many barriers that you have to overcome when you're a Black male. Basically, what it's saying is that Black men die 4 years earlier than their white counterparts. And what we also know, as we follow this through, is the COVID deaths. Black men have been the most likely among Blacks and whites Americans to die of COVID at the rate, listen to this, of 2.4 times that of white men, according to the CDC data from July of 2020. The report argues that 80 of 100,000 black men in the U.S. had died of COVID by July the 4th. I'm telling you right now, the last thing that I wanted to just touch in on, as we said before, is the criminal justice. Black men face a much higher chance of being incarcerated, according to the Bureau of Justice data. What we find is that portions of the state and federal prisoners of each race and gender compared to the share of the U.S. adult population. Listen to this status. Black men are overrepresented among prisoners by a factor of 5. Did you hear that? That is simply to say 32% versus 6%. My friends, I had someone tell me that they were tired of the blue lights in East Winston. And they said that they were doing these check stops. And they were arguing that the check stops were lower on the west side. They were trying to make the argument that crime was not as bad on the west side. But I want to tell you something. The ACLA is an organization that holds police organizations and criminal justice organizations accountable. Do you know what they found? That the numbers were staggering in East Winston, and they were minimal in West Winston. But they also found that they weren't doing the check stops. So it wasn't that the crime wasn't being committed. It was that it wasn't being checked. Do you see? And so here we have it. Black men need a new deal. There's so much for me to talk about when you look at this notion around black men. I want you to know that there is also the challenge for us. Listen to this, that when you look at the population of blacks and black men, that did you know that the bulk of blacks and black men reside in the South? Oh yes, I found that in my research, and I thought it was rather interesting that when you look at the challenges, you find that African Americans, you could understand this also by the Civil War and the history, all that is true. But we also know that when you look at African Americans, they settled in the South, and which is where we had the big battles around, excuse me, around Jim Crow and so many of the others, where African Americans were forced to be able to be subjected to Jim Crow laws and laws that were designed against them. And so what I want to suggest to you today is that when you look at the state of black men, I want you to know that there's a lot that needs to be talked about. I wanted to come on today just to start the conversation. I'm going to invite you to tune in next week to one of my good clinicians. He is accomplished in his own right. and has done steady work on the plight of Black men. I want to try to tell you today that every good orator gives you some level of aspiration and hope. I want to close my time with you today and say to you that the good news of this broadcast is that there is an opportunity for us to have a new deal. This new deal requires bipartisan participation. That is to say that the Black male has to rise to the occasion, and also those other barriers have to be addressed, and we have to all come to what I like to call the table of reasoning. And you would be surprised. We've seen it happen. We've seen barriers removed. We've seen new legislation created. And it all starts with us coming to the table of reason. Listen, I want to close early today, but I wanted to come on just long enough to let you know. I want you to tune in next week. We're going to have a clinician to come in and talk about the state of the Black male in a way, I promise you, that you've never heard it framed up before. I don't want to steal his thunder, but I'm asking you, join me on next Saturday for 60 minutes from 9 to 10 a.m. And I want you to do me a favor. Bring a Black male to the space, because what we want to do is to put resources into the hands of you. Maybe you have a young Black male. Maybe you have a brother that needs to hear some positive words in a very dark situation. Or maybe you have a spouse that maybe have given up. I stopped by to tell you that there is a new deal for Black men. Listen, my time is up today, but I certainly want to thank you for yours. I'm going to ask you one more time. I'm making a public appeal to help me to help our Black men. Share this link with a family or a friend. And then on next Saturday, ask that Black male to join us as we talk about areas that we can remove barriers for Black men. There are so many secrets in this world. I've been fortunate, and I've had some people look out for me, and I want to pay it forward and help bless somebody else. When I came to the city, I want to share this with someone. I was told that I was looking for some employment. This is a true story. And when I came to the town, I went to go see this influential Black person. And they told me that they were willing to validate me and that I was good stock. Thank you, Father, for that affirmation. They said to me, they wrote on a piece of paper, I want you to go and call this person and tell them you want a meeting with them. And tell them I sent you. Let me help somebody today. I went, called the number. The person, just like clockwork, set me up a meeting. And when I got in the meeting, the person that sent me said, you tell that person that I said to give you a new opportunity in employment. Watch this. And the person said, you be sure to tell them that there's a system and you know about the system. Oh my goodness, I said. What I'm trying to help somebody is that it demonstrated to me that the new deal sometimes is just around the corner. I want to tell somebody today that it's not as bad as it seems, that this too shall pass. And I want to help you today that if you are willing to make one step. This God we serve and we represent, he makes another. Am I talking to anyone today who would be willing to be a witness that this God we serve, he specializes in doing the impossible? But I close by telling you this. I had a godson, and he was angry. Said the system was against him. Young black man. He was angry. And he said to me, I want a job. So I'm tired of out here living this life. So I asked him, I said, well, let me ask you a question. Have you put an application in? Tell me where you went to go put an application in. You know what the young man said? And I want to speak right into the camera and help somebody today. He said, I ain't put no application in because the system is against me. Heavenly Father, I shared with him, sir, how do you expect them to hire you when you haven't even put an application in? And then I said to him, you are your own enemy, because they might not hire you, but they can't stop you from being an entrepreneur. That's all I have for today. I want to thank you for your time. I want to tell you, don't you dare give up. We've got some great tips for you to get your black men a new deal. Can I pray with you today? This is a wonderful session, and I cannot wait for my friends and colleagues to come on this broadcast and talk with you. You'll be able to send questions in live and talk to them around recommendations and resources. Father, we thank you for this day. We give you praise even now. You are an awesome God. You continue to show your hand mighty, and you remind us over and over and over that there is nothing impossible for you. As we leave this space, lift up that hung down head, touch that shattered mind even now, and give them peace. That person who's on the brink of giving up, may you walk them back from that cliff and let them know that life is worth living. We thank you for these and all other blessings now, in the powerful, mighty, and magnanimous name of Jesus the Christ. Thank you. Listen, it's time for me to go. I am certainly looking forward to bringing you some resources and some opportunities for you to get some direct connection with some people that can make some life-changing decisions for you. That's all we have until next week. The Lord bless you. The Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. May God be gracious unto you, and may he give you peace. Amen.